Well, a brand new era has now started on Raw. So obviously last week Paul Heyman was kicked out the door. Now Bruce Pritchard, who used to be in charge of SmackDown and still is in charge of SmackDown, is now also in charge of Raw. But really it doesn't matter because you know how this works. You know the rules. There's only one man who ticks the boxes and says yes or no, and that is Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So really, has anything changed? If a tree falls in a wood and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Think on this. But my name is Simon Miller. Thank you for joining me on this week's Ups and Downs for All, where yes, we are gonna figure out whether it was a good show or whether it was a pile of crap by giving the good bits an up and the bad bits a down. Let's up those downs. Right, I don't care what anybody says. Randy Orton is a great sports entertainer, and Randy Orton is a great professional wrestler. I know there have been times in the past where it's like, well, that was disappointing, or this didn't live up to expectations, but when he is on fire, he is like a damn oven, and he is getting it up. He was first out here, and he just ruined Edge, as it was confirmed that the rated R superstar tore his tricep at Backlash and now is gonna be out for a long time. Or as the Viper told us, we won't see him again until 2029, because of course that would be 9 years, which is the same time he was gone after his retirement. He was firing those shots. Orton, being the absolute serial killer that he is, also saw all of this as him doing a favor for Edge, because now Adam Copeland can go back to his friends, can go back to his family, and he doesn't have to worry about this industry anymore. So those voices in Randy Orton's head, they truly are crazy. He also referred to himself as the Legend Killer, and if you're a long-time fan, you will remember that character and how damn good it was. And really, this is true. Where's Matt Hardy? Taken out by Randy Orton. Where is Edge? Taken out by Randy Orton. And before the end of this night, we're gonna be able to add another name to that list. And on that very note, guess who then interrupted him? That's right, it was Repo Man. No, it wasn't, it was Christian who was here, and he was so mad about everything that Orton had done to his friend Edge. He got on his face and was like, listen pal, we are gonna have a word. He made it very clear that Edge ain't gonna retire on Orton's terms. He will make it back to the squared circle, and then it will be up to Edge to decide what he wants to do next. Randy Orton just laughed this off like, ha ha ha. Who are you, you little pipsqueak? Oh, I know who you are. You are the second to Edge. You've always been number 2. You've always been jealous, and not even your mum cares about you. Oh my gosh. Orton also thought this was just Christian gunning for another match, so he said straight up, I know you're not cleared to wrestle, but I will take you on later in an unsanctioned fight, and I'll leave the ball in your court. And obviously Captain Charisma was terrified about this because he did have to retire because of concussion issues. And then Orton told us, this is a one-time offer and you have to answer me before the end of the night. So that's a lovely little hook we've set up. Spoiler, it does happen, but we will talk about it later. We also continue to tease the falling out between Andrade and Angel Garza here, because Charlie Caruso was interviewing Angel and Zelina Vega and was like, aren't you like a bit of a dick for costing your friend his match at Backlash? And Angel's guys are like, hey, I don't care, I just want to do this and I just want to do that. Then Andrade arrived, and clearly he doesn't give two hoots about his former friend, because he was like, I know you're going to fight Kevin Owens later, and maybe you do well, but maybe you lose, and oh, won't that be a shame? Zelina Vega watched all of this like a disappointed mother, and that's about to go even further in a minute. Because yeah, we went straight into KO versus Garza, and before they'd even thrown a punch, Andrade's music hit, and he came out to watch the show. Andrade and Angel Garza then started having a massive row, and like I say, Zelina Vega was so sick and tired of this, and she even said as much, and she just left. She just walked backstage. She was like, let the kids fight, there's nothing else I can do. There was also a bunch of nonsense towards the end because everybody was trying to distract the referee like he was the prettiest girl at the ball and they wanted his attention, but ultimately Kevin Owens took advantage of this. He stunned Angel Garza, he got the 1, 2, 3, and Andrade thought this was hilarious. So it should now set up a proper feud between those two, allowing Kevin Owens to go on and do something else. Yeah, that's all right. Like an angry parent, Zelina then stormed back out and she was like, listen Andrade, listen Angel Garza, you two have to get your shib together and remember that you both have a joint focus here. I like to think that what she did is she went outside, she smoked a cigarette going, damn that family of mine, running me into the ground, but then went, look, I am the mother, I have to sort this out, and then went back in and sorted shit out. We then cut to MVP and Bobby Lashley, who were discussing their match later, which bizarrely is going to be against R-Truth and Drew McIntyre. Then Sarah Schreiber just floated up from nowhere and was like, guys, I want to talk to you about last night at Backlash and everything that happened with Lana. And MVP was like, does this look like a time to come and interview us? We are having a private conversation. Why don't you buzz off and go back to journalism school? Although they then went on to say they will address this, but they will do it in the ring, and they did that next. So I guess the MVP, or MVP, as we're now calling him, and Bobby Lashley, they just really wanted their entrance. This happened too, and my word, MVP wasn't holding back at all, because he got on the microphone and he said, there is only one reason that my Bobby Lashley lost, and it is exclusively because of Lana. So he put all the blame on her, and then clearly the former Russian didn't appreciate this, so she came out and said, no, let's calm things down. Bobby, look at me, talk to me. Do you remember that we got married and all those things I did for you, like dye my hair and got a divorce? I mean, if she sees it that way, this marriage is based on very poor ethics. MVP then called her a thought, and I have absolutely no idea what that means, but apparently it is a quite popular insult. So I'm going to start using it now when people come at me and they go, Miller, you don't know what you're talking about with wrestling. You get your ups and downs wrong all the time. I'll go, shut up, you thought. Bobby then finally snapped and decided to go all in with this too. And he said, Lana, when was the last time you even laced up a pair of boots? And given that she was wearing boots, I'm going to assume within the last 5 minutes, but of course he was talking about wrestling gear, and then said, I'm sick of you publicizing our sex life, which she does do, and really, I'm sick of you altogether. She cares more about her Instagram account than she does about Bobby Lashley trying to get the WWE title, and she only married him for the fame. And then clearly Lana had this little insult in her back pocket, because she was like, well, Bobby, if that was true, I would have gone with someone like Drew McIntyre instead. This was like watching a real argument play out in front of our eyes, and I was like, guys, maybe you want to just go to the back? I don't really think we should be witnessing this. She then went nuts when Bobby Lashley demanded they get divorced, so that marriage lasted long. And all the while, MVP was just in the background like a kid going tee-hee-hee-hee, because obviously now he's got exactly like he wanted. Now, I am kind of glad we're trying to get Lana out the picture. It's no disrespect to her. I just think Bobby Lashley and MVP work better together. And while I wouldn't say I was entertained by this, I do appreciate the fact that WWE is actually letting this story play out while cementing the relationship between Bobby Lashley and MVP. So in that sense, it gets an up, but please get this over and done with soon. WWE then pushed things a little bit too far. As we've already talked about on Backlash Ups and Downs, I didn't mind everything that went down between the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits, apart from the fact that it divided the internet and you just had people throwing barbs at each other. Everyone just calm down. If somebody enjoyed it, great, and if they didn't enjoy it, great. It's just wrestling. For some reason, the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders are friends again, even though I'm pretty sure I saw them throw each other through glass. And this is where Tozawa turned up with his group of ninjas once more, including the tall guy. And I was just a little bit like, look, it's all well and good doing it on a little skit, but I don't think the ninjas need to become recurring characters. We then indeed got that match, e.g. the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders taking on a bunch of ninjas, and the bunch of ninjas lost in around about 1 minute. So what was the point of that? I mean, we saw a couple of big splashes and Montez Ford got the pin. I have no idea. Tozawa, who had done nothing during this, then got in the ring with the tall dude, and despite the fact the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders had been in total control, they were like, ha, we've got back up, and out came the Big Show of all people, because of course if you have one tall dude, you need to balance it out with another tall dude. The ninjas then proved they were cowards because they left, and to me this just didn't work as well as it had on Sunday night. It was almost played like, seriously? I just don't think we needed to carry it on. Down. Quick chat with Seth Rollins too. Earlier in the day, Rey Mysterio had let us know that Dominic, his son, was on his way to Raw against his wishes, and while Seth had heard this, he hadn't seen the boy, so what is he to believe? We shall see. We also saw Christian on his phone trying to assure someone that he was going to be okay, and he hadn't made up his mind yet, and I'm going to imagine the person on the other end of the line was his brain, going, dude, we have concussion problems, we had to retire, I really think you should say no. And then here came Mr. Rollins. Seth said that while Rey Mysterio had refused his invite to come to Raw this week, Dominic hadn't, and then by using the power of magic, somehow Rey Mysterio hacked in to the big screen on Raw, and he was like, Seth, no, you've got this all wrong. That's how he talks now. I didn't want Dominic to come to Raw, but he's doing it anyway, and I tell you this, if you even touch him, I will rip off your beard. Seth assured us that no matter what, he wasn't going to hurt him, And that's like putting a massive pizza in front of me and you saying, look, I'm gonna go away for 20 minutes, don't eat it. And I go, I promise I won't eat it. I am damn well eating it. The reason he felt this way though is because Dominic is young and he needs a leader, he needs a father figure, and Seth Rollins can be that person. So he said Dominic could join his group. Ray was quick to fire back with, that will never happen, I would never let it happen. So Rollins like, okay, fine, if that's how you feel, and if Dominic agrees, I'll just have to have a chat with Murphy, I'll just have a chat with Austin Theory, and they can go and beat the woo-ha out of him. So Seth Rollins just threatened a kid, and obviously this sent Mysterio nuts, and he then threatened to kill Seth Rollins. He said, if you touch him, I will end you. So all these things were going off, and then from nowhere, Dominic was in the ring, and he put a beating down on Seth Rollins. He even threw him into the ring steps. He then bailed because Seth's minions were here to try and get some kind of revenge. And I tell you, this segment was actually really good, other than the fact that I'm pretty sure Rollins repeated himself around about 52,765 times. But when Dominic was throwing the bombs and one throwing the fists, I was sat there going, yeah, Dominic, you get him, you do it for your dad, which is either Rey Mysterio or Eddie Guerrero, depending on what you believe in that storyline, which means this is somehow working. I have no idea if he's ready for a match, but boy howdy, am I behind him, he's getting it up. R-Truth was then trying to send his condolences to Bobby Lashley and MVP. I think because he assumed those two were getting a divorce, it was never really made clear. I also want to point out that Lashley was wearing a grey t-shirt here, but when he was out in the ring for his interview segment, he was half naked, showing off his muscles. Which means, in storyline, Bobby was dressed, he then got undressed to come to the ring so he could go, huh, and then when he got backstage, he redressed. So, Bobby Lashley is weird. And while I was a fan of WWE building all these stories throughout the evening, I just don't think we needed to focus on this one, and we could have ended it there. But instead, MVP and Bobby Lashley decided to go and find R-Truth, even though he was literally right in front of them 30 seconds ago, and they did discover him under one of the Performance Center rings, just being scared about ninjas. I think they were going to kick his ass when Drew McIntyre turned up, because of course they're going to be a tag team later, and in all of this madness, a stipulation was made that it was going to be a winner-takes-all bout later on, meaning if MVP and Bobby Lashley were able to get the pinfall of the submission, they would become the WWE champion and they would become the 24/7 champion. No. Do not mix those two belts together. The 24/7 championship is such a joke. I have seen major stars have the chance to win it and instead go, I'm not even gonna smell it. Furthermore, Drew said he wasn't interested in this, he didn't want it, but it got settled anyway. Why? Who approved this? Who officiated and said, yeah, this is fine? It's like I talked about last week, there's a wizard in the sky that you don't see. It only happens on Raw when we go to commercial breaks, and because of that, I went out and I found actual footage. Roll it. Drew McIntyre, R-Truth, Bobby Lashley and MVP. I have heard everything that you've been saying, Gandalf, Frodo, Lord of the Rings, and I have decided that because you want to have a match where all the titles are on the line, alakabam, alakazoo, I make it official, wizard in the sky. McIntyre then seemed to be fine with this, even though R-Truth was completely baffled about what had happened. Down. Liv Morgan and Natalya were then back on Raw, and now they're just a team, even though nobody told me why they're a team. Don't make me bring the wizard back. They were taking on the Iconics, and clearly Natty and Liv suck because they got beaten here in around about 2 minutes. They also couldn't get it together at all because they kept blind tagging each other, which meant all the momentum got thrown into the toilet, and the only things you want to throw into the toilet are like things that come out of your bowels. It allowed the Iconics to hit their double team finisher for the 1, 2, 3, and then they got on the microphone and said, Sasha Banks, Bayley, we want to have a tag team match against you next week on Raw, and if you say no, wait for it, we know someone who will make it official. What did I tell you? And that's me. I am friends with Peyton Royce and I am friends with Billy Kay, and whatever they want, I promise I will get to them. So Raw tag team match next week, Raw tag team title match for the Women's Championships next week. Hulazaba, Hachigaba, it is official. Whew. That's another down. Big Show was then trying to talk Christian out of accepting this match with Randy Orton, saying, look, Chris, you know why he's doing this. He's not having an unsanctioned match because it means you can wrestle. He's doing it because it means he can whoop your ass. And then Christian was like, are you trying to talk me out of this, Big Show? And I was like, well done, Sherlock. How did you figure that one out? But I did quite like these segments. It added gravitas to the fact Christian shouldn't be doing this, even if he does want to defend his best friend. I then got scared because Natalya was yelling at Liv Morgan saying that the only reason they lost is because she's a rookie and she doesn't know what she's doing. Rightfully, Morgan just walked off. I would never stand there and have someone just yell at me like this. But because Natty is borderline crazy, she just stood there and started yelling into the wind. Like there was nowhere around, but she was going, oh, no one listens to me. I'm Natalya, I know everything. Also, what happened to all these phone calls that Natalya was having a couple of weeks ago? That was just dropped like a bad smell. But yeah, here's where the fear came. Lana walked up to her and was like, Natty, I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm about to get divorced. Now, in the real world, losing a random tag team match is not as bad as having to get a marriage annulled. But if WWE team these two together, well, we'll see. I'm positive maybe it's great. I'm just unsure. Also, if it means that Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott get back together, because Ruby Riott was name dropped here, I am just gonna let my brain leave my ear and run away as I collapse on the ground, because I still don't even know why Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott fell out to begin with, and now if they get back together, it'll be too much. Christian then accepted Randy Orton's challenge because he feels like Orton has disrespected him and he feels like Orton has disrespected Edge. This is the equivalent of Marty McFly getting mad anytime somebody called him a coward. But look, all of this, like I say, it was just really good. It built, and then it had a really good end. We then teased that maybe MVP is going to expand his stable to include Apollo Crews. Because he met him backstage here and he was like, look, I'm one of the longest United States champions in history, and if you want to keep that belt, you want to enlist my help. And obviously Apollo Crews, being a good guy, was like, look, I respect you, MVP, and I appreciate the offer, but I don't think it's for me. But we are not done with this. Raise the eyebrow. I then think I fell asleep again because we had the Flairs talking to each other. And Rick just went to Charlotte. So, Charlotte, like sometimes people get under your skin, and Charlotte was like, yeah, they do, Dad. Woo. I mean, that's a quote. Yeah, they do, Dad. Woo. I don't know what this was. Shelton Benjamin was then on Raw. That automatically gets him up because he's so underused and he's so good. So yeah, just get him up. Unfortunately, he was fed to Apollo Crews here, but that's okay. Apollo Crews is the US champion and he needs all the momentum, and we got an interesting story, even though it did involve the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. That is number 42. And this was another short match, and I will point out that we were around about the 100-minute mark here, and we'd only had maximum 12 minutes of wrestling on a wrestling show, and that's never good, but let's not worry about that for now. For as you see, at one point, Shelton had tried to use the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, and he put his feet on the ropes, but he wasn't very clever. He did it in front of the referee saw, so he stopped it. But then Apollo Crews reversed with his own most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and he noticed the referee couldn't see his arm, so he grabbed the ropes. Now straight away I was like, are we turning Apollo Crews heel? I don't think so, but I think this was just him being like a cool baby face and being like, look, Shelton, if you're gonna be a moron, I can be a moron too, and now it's cost you, so you're the bigger moron. What I really liked, and this didn't even happen on Raw, is that on WWE socials afterwards, MVP and Shelton Benjamin had a little bit of a chat, so now it seems like Shelton Benjamin may be joining Umvup's group. That gets me excited. You could have a whole feud with Apollo Crews, which will make him a better babyface. Everyone calm down, because we know WWE changes on a whim, but I like the direction this is going in. Then the ninjas were back, and I'm just going to tell you straight, it was too many ninjas. That's just how I felt about it. And clearly, they wanted to win the belt, the 24/7 title from R-Truth, because they approached him here. But when he did the crane kick, he thought he'd scared them off, but actually they ran away, because Drew McIntyre approached, and that's clearly someone they're intimidated by. And this was all about McIntyre trying to drill it into R-Truth's head that this is serious and that he's not going to lose his life's work. And it seemed like R had figured it out, but as you're about to realize, he had missed the point entirely. Asuka promo next, and Charlie Caruso wanted to know what the Empress of Tomorrow was going to do against Nia Jax, because Nia Jax is so dominating and she's been so much in control, even though at Backlash, they both got counted out. Ooh, yeah, terrifying. You couldn't answer a 10 count. Anyway, Asuka doesn't care about this, and while Nia Jax started their feud, she will finish it. And she kinda did, but she really kinda didn't. And then my point was proved once again, because we were back to R-Truth and Drew McIntyre, and Truth told Drew, don't worry about it, I heard your words, I heeded them, and I have sorted it out. No longer are both our belts on the line, it's now just gonna be for your WWE Championship. And who said that was okay? you already know. It was me. I had a chat with R-Truth. I'm a big fan of R-Truth. I love his music and I love his reign as 24/7 champion. He said, "Wizard in the sky, can I please have a reprieve and not put my championship on the line?" And I said, "Wizard blah blah," and I made it happen. Sorry, Drew, you didn't talk to me. Therefore, your championship will remain on the line. Wizard in the sky, signing out. So this really pissed off Drew, as it would, and it was okay to a point. It was also a little bit misguided. Then we made the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders look like absolute morons. They were trying to figure out how they could end their feud about who's better than who, and there was chariot racing suggested when the Big Show turned up and he went, "Guys, keep it simple. You're the Raw Tag Team Champions. You want to be the Raw Tag Team Champions. Why don't you just have a match next week?" And all four of those guys were like, "Oh yeah, we could do that. But at least we're finally getting it." It was in this mad tag team match when whoever won was going to become the WW champion, which is the most WCW thing I'll ever say, but actually, it kind of worked. Truth was being a moron and tagged himself in and obviously got himself straight into trouble, but that makes sense again when you think about the narrative, because there had to be some sense of a fan going, "Oh, well, maybe Drew's going to lose here," even though clearly Drew was never going to lose, but you had to try it. Instead, it wound up with McIntyre eventually hitting Umvup with the Claymore kick and then being a super nice guy, tagging in R-Truth and throwing him off the top rope onto MVP, allowing Truth to get the pin and the 1, 2, 3. At some point, I was like, wait, does that mean R-Truth is now the WWE champion? Then I realized I was being ridiculous. This was like two friends getting back together. They posed together afterwards to double down on this idea, and I kind of realized at this stage, it's almost like there's been a shift backstage and somebody else is writing this show. Ric Flair then tried to talk Christian out of his match with Randy Orton and said, "Look, Chris, don't worry about it. Your family, they'll understand, and also the locker room will understand too." And that really cracked me up. Imagine being that guy in the locker room. Like, what a loser. What a dick Christian is. Despite the fact he's not cleared to wrestle and could die if he tried it, I think he's an absolute moron for not giving this a go. If you do think like that, you're the bad person. But honestly, especially given what happened at the end of the show, this was a really good segment and made you feel worried for Captain Charisma. Alright. It was a Bayley and Sasha Banks promo that followed this, and let's just fast forward because there was so many skits on this episode of Raw. But they were going to celebrate because they are about to go through all of the brands and it's Bayley's birthday, and we're going to see Sasha and Bales taking on Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart on NXT, but then the Iconics interrupted to talk about what they said earlier. Eventually Peyton Royce punched Sasha Banks and that annoyed Bayley so much he said, "You know what, fine, we'll have the tag team match in 7 days." And you know who made that the green light and said it was okay? It was me! Exactly, but fine, up. Then somehow we made the Nia Jax and Asuka feud even more confusing than it kind of already was. Down. Why? Because apparently referees can now do whatever the hell they want. And this is doubly difficult for me, because at Backlash I said, why can't we just have somebody win? And this is like WWE trolling me because somebody did win, but they did it in such a screwy way that it was still like, why are we burying Asuka? Asuka is the WWE Women's Champion. Because basically Nia Jax lost her temper during all of this and she pushed the referee like she was Paolo Di Canio, and that's a very niche reference for people that watch English-based soccer, and rather than disqualify her, which he should have done, and of course that would have been a sucky finish too, Asuka used the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment and rolled her up, pull it down. I've got confused, is that 42 or 43? Make it 612. Who gives two hoots? And the referee went and fast counted. And this wasn't a mistake because the commentators then went, well, that doesn't seem very fair. She just fast counted. What does that mean for Asuka? And what does that mean for Nia Jax? Am I meant to feel sorry for Nia? Am I meant to think Asuka took advantage of the situation? I have absolutely no idea. And why can't Asuka just whip Jax's ass? Like, that's whole Nia's thing. She's all big and scary. So if someone like Asuka can, like, you know, beat her down to size, you just go, oh wow, Asuka's really cool. This is lost on me. Let me know in the comments. We were then building up to our main event, and Randy Orton cut such a good promo when he asked Charlie Caruso. He just said, look, do you think Christian is a legend? She said yes. He agreed, and therefore the Viper is gonna take care of him. The legend killer is back. And that was doubly true because then we were going to get our unsanctioned match between Randy Orton and Christian, and And my word, take all my emotions and throw them on the table is getting it up. There was even twists in the tale here, because before they did get it on, Ric Flair came out and you were like, what the hell is he doing? And he begged Christian. He said, look, I've chatted to Edge. Nobody wants you to do that. Please listen to me. Christian was like, look, old man. He didn't say that. That's a joke. He said, look, legend of the business, please leave the ring. If I don't do this, I won't be able to sleep at night. And really, he should have remembered Flair's nickname. And I ain't talking about the Nature Boy. I'm talking about him being the dirtiest player in the game. Because much like Randy Orton had done to Edge at Backlash, he took his hand and he punched Christian right in the testicles. Orton then punted him and pinned Christian as the stretcher was out, and we were worried, oh my gosh, is Christian dead? Randy Orton carried all this on by just like shouting into Christian's face, you shouldn't have done it, I respected you, I respected Edge, but you pushed me too much, why do you make me do these things? And Randy Orton is the greatest character in WWE right now. He actually comes across like a psychopath to the point you'll be sitting there going, I'm a little worried, what if he comes into my house? It's like Jake Robert promo on AEW, like, what if he comes into my house? Maybe he'll punt me in the head. Lock the door, Sharon. I know who Sharon is. Lock the door, Sharon. We gotta keep him out of Dodge. He flipping rocks. And that brought us to the end of a very strange Raw, which again had around about 32,000 segments. And I like the fact that we're getting all these narratives, but some of them just came out of nowhere, and there are a bunch of ninjas. We've definitely gone through some kind of a change. You could tell. I'm not sure whether it was good. I'm not sure whether it was bad. I mean, I was entertained to a point, but I liked the last segment so much, I'm gonna give it an up. And for that one guy that always tweets me going, Simon, you give every show an up. Yes, I'm a positive Pete, but it doesn't mean I can't be a negative Nancy, but I'm always honest with myself. And I'm not just gonna crap on things for the fun of it, because doing a poo isn't fun. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling. It is free. Head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE and watch more videos on here. WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Make sure you check out Ups and Downs from Backlash. I'll see you again Thursday morning for Ups and Downs from AEW. And then we're back on Saturday for Smacker Down. Everybody rest.